Good afternoon. My name is Ronald Lee Jr. I'm reporting upon several matters in my art world today. One is being clean, a clean studio, a clean person, um, organized, just keeping a neat way of making this artwork and keeping myself together. Also, I'm talking about values, light to dark, the elements of art. I'm talking about two artworks, The Liberty and Woman Writing a Letter with Her Maid, a replica after Johannes Vermeer. The first one is a replica after Constantino Brumidi. Brumidi was a painter in the 1800s in the United States of America in Washington, D.C., and he painted fresco dome ceilings and angels, the historical figures. He was really counted on for a lot of the government and artwork done in that era. Vermeer is someone from the city Delft, and he had his own style called the Hague. There were 66 artworks in the original account by experts back then, but it turns out to be about 34 major artworks that were counted in his name to present day. Some of my information is coming from the Wikipedia online. I cleaned up my art studio. I made it right. I feel good in it. Sometimes just cleaning up changes everything. Vacuum the carpet, put paints away, neaten up the paintings, stack them up neatly. Clean brushes, all that kind of thing. That's a very important one. I went a long time just taking my brushes and letting them sit with oils on them or sitting in water with acrylics just circling around in the water. The more often you change that water, the more often you wipe those brushes clean with the oil paints on them, the neater and faster your art will probably take place, because it has to do with mastery and perfection and coming closer to what you're trying to achieve. The talk that I'm trying to make is about tints, tones, and shades, not only light and dark values from black to white or white to black, saying light to dark respectively. I have an example right here that I want to show you. This is a quick pencil sketch of light to dark and all the values in between. But now imagine turning this up on its side, and I got a little project for you to try. Get a little neon to one side and a little blue purple to the other, and try to make all the blends in between. Even take it further, add a red dot in the center and try to slowly and smoothly blend that red into the dark, into the blue, into the neon, into the white, and see the different tints, tones, and shades that you come up with in between. And I compare this to like a PC graphics program, where you can select at any one point and choose that value with that code of like HD391 hashtag 37.93. It will be like a certain code for that exact color. But you can also do that with your own coloring pencils, acrylics, oils, whatever you want to do, like a small project to consider. The reason is that you make them, you take more pride in them, you build esteem and knowing what you're working with. The light to dark values are important to understand when you're looking at an artwork. I like to do a lot of replica, where you take a painting, like a master painting, and you try to master it yourself into making. I did the Liberty here. It took me 25 years. I was very creative with it at first. I had the image. I always kept it in my notebook. It was a photocopy and a footnote of what I had originally, and I took notes on it and looked up all the facts and stuff. But I was adding colors that weren't there, and I was adding shades that didn't really make sense. And then I started looking at it, and slowly over the years, it started getting more precise. Like I started finding what I needed to get, until finally I got it to the point where it really does look beautiful, and it's because I was observing the original. Once I got to that point, I decided it is direct observation for this replica. It's not a creative world to make a perfect mastery replica after another painting. It's not a creative effort. It is more direct observation. It is just like in class where you're looking at that still life and you're looking for those darks and lights that don't quite perfectly make sense to you why you're making it dark here and light here and dark here. But as you start to finish the artwork, you see it all coming together, and that's the wonder of it all. In this one, the Liberty, as I began the direct observation, more and more often I began finding things that I needed to add, like the wreath and the stars of her crown and the shapes of her face, which were really different than what I had at first. Started as a trichrome with the canvas being blue, using titanium white, using water-based oil paint that my grandmother had sent me. My loving grandmother sent me a couple of tubes of paint because she knew I was definitely going that way to become an artist, and I thank her. God bless her, because what happened was it started out as a trichroma artwork, and I used that silhouette captured painting effect to build upon to come to my later painting, which took a long time. So now I really appreciate what I began with, and I have photographed, captured it along the way. Brumidi, who was the original painter to the Liberty, he was awesome. He did a ton of angels that you could see, like in the Capitol building, in the dome. As you look up towards the oculus, the angels are flying and dancing around the oculus in the clouds. That's that painter, and what makes him special is that he was one of a kind, like a Renaissance painter, like an artist from the 500 to 600 years ago, circle of artists of Raphael and Da Vinci, with Verrocchio involved, and Perugino and all them, De Pretis and Prado, all sitting together. But he was more on the 1800s level of painting American history, not just theological representation of religious figures from early back Zero and before. The one painting I want to point out here is the one on the easel. It's the Johannes Vermeer replica that I did of woman writing a letter with her maid. It took me 5 days. 5 days. First day I started painting it, it caught with me, and I started looking at it, and the next day I got up early in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, it came down, and I painted the floor. That afternoon after I ate lunch, I painted the back wall. Later that night, I painted the painting in the background, and it started coming into play slowly but surely. I was working on the figures after 3 days, and on the 5th day, I ended up painting the window. And by looking at the original so closely that I taped on the right side of my easel, and by photocopying the image and footnoting it onto, or writing it onto the piece of paper that I printed onto, I taped it on my easel. And what I did was I just kept looking at it back and forth to my painting to it. And by studying it so closely, the light effect of that Vermeer artwork came through naturally. And I didn't have to study so close. That means when that light is seen through the window, it looks like he tries to paint the light that way. But if you paint all the details in the painting in the right ways, like the backgrounds of certain darker areas and lighter areas, that sunlight will show in that same way. And that's what I did. And I'm happy with it. It took me 5 days, and to me it's complete. I mean, there could be one or two bumps and bruises on that thing that I want to patch up, but it's an artwork that is definitely worth it, even though it took so little time compared to 25 years of learning that direct observation is really the right way for those who love to do replica artwork. I said to an old friend from a distance, being that not only these YouTube videos, but that we stay in our own kind of circle together as constantly learning from each other about different artworks and what we find in our lives. And some of the things that I was mentioning was that the head of colorings, or the blend of colorings, is definitely a neat project to try. I was mentioning that to him, that I said earlier in this video, that it'd be like almost like a graphed map of different terrains at different elevation levels, where you can see the lines being the different heights of the terrain, or like a photograph back in National Geographic of Asian lands or European lands where they have terraces of grass at different levels, and sometimes rice, and also that if you took it a little bit further, if everything was smooth, it'd be kind of like a skate park where Tony Hawk could come through and just fly off the edges of things and do like skating on through, and make it really awesome. Like people use old abandoned swimming pools to skateboard. Like skate parks and stuff are perfectly made out of those wood materials. They used to use the old swimming pools, the stone pools out. When I was a youngster, you'd buy maybe a skateboard magazine and see all the different things and stunts and tricks in curves that they would skate up along the walls and do rail slides and back into the pool and do a jump off the edge and laying back down perfectly into the pool. Of course, you use that energy and that idea with different things in your life, like art. It affects it the way that you can feel that sense of curve and feel that coefficient of friction, like you do skating. And maybe even though my skateboard level was not skate a pool, I still knew how to do an ollie, and I knew what it was like to do a jump kind of thing, and I knew what it was like to spin around and all that kind of stuff. So I have the basics and the idea of trying to achieve in this way. Carry it forward back into your art. Now you can pull things like certain blends and certain colorations. And really, it's quite simple when you look at it. It's all if it's all a technical matter to you, it's not going to be too hard. But if you look at it as like, whoa, that's impressive and hard to do, sometimes it makes it even more impressive to be able to learn it and finally achieve it that way. So other things aside from skateboarding that I got into were like snowboarding, and one time I tried skiing, and I was never really into skiing. Like going face down on two pieces of wood, I felt kind of weird, like too open, and I felt uncomfortable because I've always been on a skateboard and a snowboard. One time I tried surfing and cracked the nose of my board down in Florida because the waves are very small. We stayed shallow because we're young kids, like 11, and so you really learn as you go. But try again, and then you see how you do. You will get results. You will get results. The art that I'm coming out with, I'm really impressed. Especially the one on the right, which took less time. I felt like I put my all into it. I gave it all that I got, and I think even if I put a price of way up there, that it's worth it. I would want to try to get about $500,000 if the powers that be would be willing to spend that kind of money. That it's definitely worth it, because you come so far in your life and you finally realize, okay, I got work, or I got artwork sold this certain year. I sold $1,000 last year, or the year before, whatever. It builds your esteem, and you finally think about it and you go, what if I could really cash in? So that's what it is to me. It's such an important artwork. I think that's what I want to leave it at, and I'm not going to bend on it. It's just, if I happen to make the money I do, it's good for me, because then you can afford a home, then you can afford things in your life, and it's not such like a proper incident of having to love art and having to like give it up for like $20 to $100. Like I don't want to do that. I want this one to be expensive. That's how it's going to be. But this is concluding my little video here. And I just want to remind you about using those values, tints, tones, and shades very wisely. They're parts of the elements of art. And yours in reporting, Ronald Lee Jr. Have a great afternoon. Thank you for watching my video.